Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest, Tommy Dorfman, made her Broadway debut opposite Kit Connor and Rachel Zegler in Romeo and Juliet, and is now receiving rave reviews in the new play Becoming Eve at New York Theatre Workshop. And I caught up with Tommy here at the legendary Sardi's. You are receiving such rave reviews for your incredible performance in this show.
Thank you.
How did the play come about for you?
I was in the midst of Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
and my agent called me and was like, I think I found, well, he was like, are you okay? Would you do another play? And I was like, yeah, I'll do another play. I love doing plays. And this was early in previews for Romeo and Juliet. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do another play. What is it? And I was like, let me read it and see. He was like, no, but there's going to be overlap. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'll get a couple weeks off. And he was like, no, you'll literally go straight into it. Like, you'll start rehearsal before you close. And I was like, oh, let me read it. And then I read it and I fell in love and I auditioned a bunch of times, and it was a very normal casting process.
So when you first read the play, talk about the connection you had to this and why you wanted to do it.
Deep connection with Emil's writing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like it's so poetic and it made so much sense to me in my body. I find that if I can memorize something quickly, it's the right thing for me. Even if I don't always get the job, it's just like a clear indicator that there's something connecting that's deeper than I even have time to process because I'm auditioning, you know. So it's if I find an ease with it at first and like a clear understanding of what I'm trying to do in each scene that I'm playing in a tiny room in front of all the producers and whoever else, then I know that when the time comes to do the show, if I'm fortunate enough to get the job, I will be able to do it. And that's how I felt with Romeo and Juliet in the same way. I was like, there was an ease with both of my characters as I was auditioning for them. And I just really fell in love with Emil's writing. I really was excited about doing a sort of family dramedy, tragedy, comedy combination of things. Yeah. I was really interested and nervous about playing a character from the age of 3 to 25. I think that was an exciting challenge, and then getting to collaborate with amazing puppetry artists and performers. I really love Tyne, honestly. Like, I just fell in love with working with her as a director in the room as I was auditioning, and so it's just the combination of all of those things felt really right to me. And I was excited about playing, going from Romeo and Juliet, where I was playing, a man and a woman, to then play a trans woman who's Jewish, who has a completely different lived experience than I had, but there's also so many similarities and emotional truths that connect me to Abby, and I'm just inspired by her story. And frankly, like, I just had never read anything like it.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I get an opportunity to originate a role in a new play, would always take it, because it's just such a gift to get to work that collaboratively with playwrights and directors. And I've never, by and far, the largest role I've had in anything. So up until, honestly, Romeo and Juliet, I had really only played pretty small roles in things in TV and in theater. And so it's been a really fun growth journey for me over the last 9 months.
How do you describe the play?
It is a 5-act tragedy about a woman who is trying to find a way to maintain connection and love with her very orthodox conservative family. That's how I describe it, I think. And through these attempts at not salvaging a relationship, but trying to protect a connection with her child and her biological family, she finds herself jumping into her past to fortify her present moment. Yeah.
Because this is based on Abby Stein's.
Based on Abby Stein's memoir, Becoming Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, an incredible, true story about Abby, who grew up in the Hasidic community in Williamsburg, but knew from a very young age that she was a woman, and was raised in a very gendered, male-dominated society, and was in conflict with that from as soon as she got her first haircut at age 3, and spent her adolescence searching through rabbinical Jewish texts and interpretations from ancestral rabbis to find a solution to what was ailing her, which was a deep body, emotional, spiritual dysmorphia and dysphoria. And she was able to find, through Kabbalah and, centuries old texts, a take on the Akedah, Isaac and Abraham and the angel. If that story is familiar to you, it exists, in Christianity and Judaism and Islam and every religion. That story exists and interpretations of it exist. And in an old 18th century, actually someone who was her ancestor had written about the Akedah as Isaac had been born with a female soul and needed a male soul. And so she was able to hold on to that text that she found at her yeshiva, which is high school, as a teenager for her community, and use that in her early 20s to lay out an argument for her father that she's hopeful that he can't refute. I mean, it's truly such a gift to play a character from start to finish in this way. Also, the Abby that we know today is so different than the Chava I get to play on stage, which is, very early transition Abby, not realized as an activist yet, no memoir to speak of, hasn't come out and gone viral in all the ways that Abby's life unfolded. It's all predates that. It's just like learning English, honestly.
Yeah.
And like trying to have housing security and like get basic necessities met. And isn't even thinking about writing a book or anything yet. Is just enjoying studying at Columbia and having some freedom for the first time and being liberated as a woman and really stepping into herself. But it's a beautiful gift to track. Often, in any piece of art, you meet a character in this like finite moment in time that's incredibly special, and that's why it deserves to be on stage or on screen. And in this play, I get to live through 2 decades of her life, which I find very healing and I find very cathartic, because I have similar experiences as a trans woman of, Jewish faith and very different upbringing, but I grew up in the South, which had its own complications. And so it feels like a safe way for me to process my own childhood stuff and also find gratitude for my life and where I am today compared to where I was when I was 25 or where I was when I was 15. I also think it feels really exciting to offer audiences this perspective of family and identity and love and loss and grief and motherhood that they otherwise might not be privy to, because so few stories tackle trans parenthood in any capacity. And so that feels like a real gift, especially in our current climate, if you will. So it feels really exciting to me to be of service to Abby's story and myself and my community, and offer audiences a new way into empathy and compassion for both sides. I think that's one of the most effective things about the play, is that it doesn't really villainize anybody.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. Chava's not perfect by any means. Everyone's just doing their best in an impossible situation and circumstance.
We first recognized you in 13 Reasons Why and Jane the Virgin. Mm-hmm. And then a few years ago, you decided to publicly come out. You're a warrior for so many wonderful people. But I want to thank you for what you've done for so many people, for people who don't have a voice.
Thank you.
And I was wondering what that choice was like for you to make at the time. Were you ever afraid of something like, I may not work again, or I don't know where my career's going to go?
Yeah,
Tell me.
The last acting job I did was Daddy, which was a Jeremy O. Harris play directed by Danya Tamor. And I was playing a very sort of like masculine character.
Yeah.
And it was like I played like the most boy I could play, before I transitioned. It was like, and I kind of knew that it was coming. I was like, I'm gonna transition.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but I also really wanted to take this acting opportunity. And to me, it's like, I played Tybalt as a woman. Like, it doesn't bother me to play a different gender. It's just that my body wasn't aligned with my soul yet. I avoided transitioning publicly for a really long time just because it didn't feel like something I owed the world.
Yeah.
We also were in a pandemic, so it was great. Until I was ready, and so it was almost a year. And in that time I was working on my memoir, and I was just writing other stuff that I hadn't even sold yet. I just was like processing and writing. I wrote a movie that I ended up directing that went to South by Southwest. Like, I was able to generate other things for myself.
Yeah.
Thinking that there was totally a possibility in which I wouldn't get to act again, or if I would get to act again, it would be in a long time. And part of that was just when I felt ready. I didn't feel ready to throw myself on screen or on stage the first 3-4 years of my transition. I just didn't feel confident enough. And my work has changed so much as a performer, as an actor. My depth, what's available to me is completely different than what was available to me before. How my body moves in space is completely different than it was for almost 5 years ago now. So it's like, I needed to take that time. I wasn't interested in documenting the early parts of my transition for public consumption. It just wasn't interesting to me. It felt scary to me.
Yeah.
But I still existed. I didn't totally disappear. I just waited until, kind of as long as I could. And I'm glad that I did, and it offered me an opportunity to like do a myriad of other things when I came out. And it opened a lot of doors for me as a filmmaker and as a writer and as an artist outside of just acting, because I wasn't fulfilled by most of the work I got to do as an actor before. And I think a part of that is because I wasn't myself. Regardless of, like, the job could have been amazing, but if you're not, if you're living corseted in a, completely, my life was a total facade. Yeah. It was really hard for me to be honest in my work. And so I needed that space and time. And really it was like my film went to South by in 2023, 2024. And after that is when I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to audition again. Yeah. I think I'm ready to, and I knew that I was going to have to work for it. Like, there was never going to be a world. It was funny because right after I came out, I got these offers to like be a series regular on a TV show. I turned everything down because I just didn't feel ready, and I knew that was risky because I was like, shoot, I may never, like, I've never been offer only, and suddenly I'm getting these offers, but it also felt very tied just to identity. It wasn't exciting to me creatively, so I just was like, I'm going to gamble, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, I don't know, I called my agents and my manager I've been with forever, and I just was like, I am ready to audition again, but I have some perspective now, and I know that I really only want to do theater right when I come back.
Yeah. Because I remember talking to Ian McKellen, and I said, was there a time in your career that freed you up? And he said, Richard, when I came out, he said it was like years of these rocks fell off my back, and he said, I always thought my performance was sort of like a lie.
Yeah.
Like how you must have felt. And he said, when I came out as being who I am, he said, it just opened up myself as an actor.
Completely. That's exactly how I felt. And I think I wouldn't have even known right away. I needed to like develop and grow in different ways and understand the woman that I am a little bit more, as much as a human can understand themselves, which is a complex, challenging thing. Sure. For, I think, anybody, regardless of gender identity and sexuality. I think but I knew that theater was the space in which I could investigate my self as an actor today in a way that would feel challenging but also liberating, because there's an impermanence to it. And that felt radical to me. And now I feel ready to go back to film and TV as well. But I mean, if my dream, I moved back to New York from LA right after the pandemic, because I was like, I have to be back. I have to be doing theater. I have to do a play a year. Like, I just have to, as much as I can. Yeah. And I definitely fulfilled that prophecy for myself in the last 9 months. And I'm excited because I know that I'll do more, and I know that I came back to New York for that purpose and for that reason. So that
2 big shows back to back.
I feel very, very, very grateful, and I'm in shock, and I haven't fully processed the amount of I mean, just Broadway debut alone took me like a full 2 months of shows for me to even realize that I was doing it. It was like it just felt like such a huge thing that I dreamed about for 20 years happening that like I just stayed in the work. And then I remember getting on the subway and going and being like, wait, I'm doing a Broadway show. I've been doing a Broadway show for 8 weeks. What do you mean I'm doing a Broadway show? I'm on Broadway? Like it really, like I think I was so focused on the work that like I had no perspective of it. And then suddenly I zoomed out and I was like, this is the coolest thing in the entire world. And I can't believe. And it was like Mary-Kate was doing Wicked. I didn't know her, but I loved her TikToks. And it's like you just start running into people on the street and it's the most beautiful thing. And I don't know, I think it's my favorite thing in the world. I love doing it. I'm so like, I mean, yeah, definitely you have 3 weeks to come see Becoming Eve, at least at the Abrams Art Center, and who knows where we'll go after that. But I think it's crazy to go from a 20-week run to a 6-week run. I'm like, I don't want to be done. I want to do it.